Firstly, I hate to break your heart, Ryan, but I'm actually not from Byron Bay.
Share these experiences. I just think two-pronged. It's an amazing, moving story. And for anyone that doesn't know it, I said your dad lost almost a person in weight. It was 90 kilograms, wasn't it? It was a huge amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had some great performances like time-wise, looking at it, and then, not so great times. And it has been a little bit of a roller coaster for me, and a bit challenging mentally because, as an athlete coming from a track background, like
One, Jess, we see you. We're letting you in 3, 2, and 1.
How are you feeling about Las Vegas coming up this week?
I'm very excited. I'm feeling like, since Hong Kong, we've had 9 weeks or so. So I think it's been like a really good time to put a good training block together. So that in itself is exciting to just like get out there, race the girls again and just see how, training has progressed and how things will stack up against everyone. So I'm really excited to give it a shot and see what happens.
Nice.
When are you getting across there?
What was that, sorry?
When are you going to be across in Las Vegas? What day are you flying out?
Yeah, I'm going to be leaving here on Wednesday. So it's about a 5.5 hour flight for me from New Jersey. So I'll get in around lunchtime on Wednesday, and then, we'll have our meeting on Thursday and briefings and race on Friday.
Okay, cool. What an exciting week, huh? There's only 4 of these a year, or 5, including the World Championships. But it's awesome. The whole world's watching you this week.
I know, and it's crazy to think that, I've been a roll down for the 3 majors now. So I never know if I'm going to even get a chance to race at these majors. So when I do, it's like it's quite surreal still to me that I've been able to line up for the 3 majors this year. So you got to take those opportunities and just do what you can with it. Hey.
Yeah, 100%. Jess, my 2 daughters heard that I was speaking to a lovely Australian lady today, so they give me one of their koalas to join us for the call. So this is going to be hanging around here if you see it poking its little head out.
I love
it. Jess, have you in the preparation for this call, whether you've done any or not, have you seen how the format of our call goes and how it's slightly different than other podcasts?
Not so much, no.
Cool. Okay, cool. Lily, do you want to let Jess know how we operate a little bit differently?
Yeah, so obviously we're called the 8x8 podcast, and that comes from not only the 8 runs and the 8 HYROX stations, but also 8 questions that we give you guys. And the kind of role for those questions is to get beyond the usual maybe podcast questions that you usually get. So we're not just going to ask you about your HYROX performance, but we're also going to try to find the Jess behind the athlete persona as well, if that sounds good to you.
Yeah, okay. I like it.
Yeah, with that in mind, let's start with question number 1. So it's a place very close to my heart, Jess. You don't know that. Actually, it's a Lily's I've just discovered as well prior to this call. But you won the Geo Lottery and you were born in Byron Bay or Cape Byron. Being born in a place like that, I can't imagine how hard it is to be that far from home where you live now. And I guess the big question really is how difficult it is. Is it for you to live that far from home? And then secondly, how have you adjusted to life in the US, which seems to be a more permanent fixture for you now?
So firstly, I hate to break your heart, Ryan, but I'm actually not from Byron Bay. So,
really?
Yeah. So what had happened was in one hybrid competition I had done, they had just grabbed I had visited Byron Bay with my family, and when I was back home visiting, and they had just grabbed the location from the picture and had somehow decided that was where I was from, and it just stuck. They didn't change it, and then another competition just kind of grabbed that and was like, "Oh, Jess is from Byron Bay," and it just kept rolling over. But I'm actually from the Gold Coast, which is still a beautiful place.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately not Byron Bay, but yeah, I grew up on the Gold Coast. I had come to America when I was 18 years old. I came over here for college. So I left home. So now I think I've been in the States for coming on 11 years,
Wow.
which is crazy to think. Yeah, it's been a long time now. The adjustment was challenging because I am very close with my family and I don't have any family over here at all. So that was, definitely a transition. But in saying that, coming over into college and being on like the track and field team, like you kind of just had your family there with the team. So that made it a lot easier being away from home and away from family. And then after college, I met my husband in college. And obviously, from there I moved in with him when I was still in college, and we've been together since. So, yeah, he's my home now. So I guess being away, this is just my life now over here in the US. Of course, I miss home. I'm a proud Aussie. I will say that. So, yeah. But, at the same time, I do love my life over here with my husband and my dog. So
Yeah, and it seems from what I can gather online that you live pretty rural in the States, do you? You live like country style living, ranch style living out there. You've got a lot of space.
Yeah, so we actually lived for about 5 years. We lived in Virginia, which it was very rural. We had a farm with about 100 acres. So yeah, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the training I did was at my house, outside, because we didn't have a lot of gyms that were close that had what we needed to train. So we just kind of created our own setup outside. We actually have moved from Virginia now, so we are in New Jersey. We've been here for about 6 months, I think. This is just a temporary spot. This is where my husband grew up, so we're just kind of landing back here while we decide where our next home is going to be.
Okay, wonderful.
Nice.
We're actually in a very similar spot. My wife and I, my wife's from Mexico, and I'm from Northern Ireland, and we tried a few years in Mexico, and I really missed Europe. So we tried to find a happy medium, and we gave 3 years ago in Spain. Well, obviously the Latin culture and the European culture come together, it didn't work out long term for us. We came back to Belfast, my hometown, for a placeholder until we find actually where our long term is. And it's very interesting to bring two worlds together, isn't it? Trying to find that place which works directly for you guys.
I know it is hard, isn't it? But ultimately, for me at least, it's wherever, as long as we're together, you'll be able to build your home and you'll be happy.
No,
I was going to say that's kind of what I'm doing as well. At the moment, I'm living as a digital nomad with my boyfriend, and it's it's trying to sort of figure out the places that we're finding for a home potentially, or a base or something like that. And you're right, Jess, in saying that it's not the place, it's the person that you're with, and then the place just kind of becomes a home from the habits that you build around it as well.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah.
So we've had a lot of men on the podcast, and I'm so glad that we've got another female that's joined us now. I was nagging Ryan to get some more women on. But the last few men that we have spoken to have admired, I guess is the right word, how the females race. And they say that the females are maybe more tactical and race a better race, basically, than they think the men do. What do you think they mean by that? And do you think that that's true?
Yeah, I actually think that they're pretty spot on with that. I think, when you get a bunch of, elite men, I guess, in one room together or on a start line together, egos can get in the way. And I think sometimes you can see that these men potentially aren't the greatest racers, I would say, because their egos do end up taking over, and their race plan, or sticking to what they their strategy kind of can go out the window because of that. So yeah, I do have to agree, and I think it is quite funny because at these major races you can almost see just the difference in the ladies, how they interact with each other versus the men. I mean, I'm not paying so much attention to what the men are doing, but like all the girls are very friendly, and you know, we're all happy to see each other. And of course, you know, when it comes time to warm up, you know, we all get in our own zone, but it's still very friendly, you know, and I've actually loved that about the majors. But I do think it is very different with the guys, you know. It's you know, they're there for business, which of course we are too as the girls, but you can tell that there is a bit of egos in the room there with everyone.
There's no real locker room at all. You guys are all pretty as a collective and quite supportive as a collective on average, or there's no bite, there's no banter prior to the race, there's no at each other?
Yeah, so far there has not been any fights, no drama. Everyone's like pretty happy to see each other and, you know, catch up, and it's actually been really nice. Like I will say the first major, when I got caught up kind of last minute in Amsterdam, I was a little bit nervous just to see like what that vibe was with the girls, and you know, coming in last minute, if there was, you know, any sort of drama or cliques or anything like that. But everyone was so welcoming and just so lovely. So that was really nice, and you know, helps coming into a race when people are like that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think like
after you,
Lily.
I
think a lot of women, when we race or when we compete, we all have the like, what's the other girls gonna think of us kind of thought, and then we're all thinking the same thing, and then we get there and like everyone's doing the same thing, and then everyone's actually just really nice. And I think men don't necessarily have that for whatever reason. They just probably got in their head from a week out, like, I'm just going to this race and then I'm going to compete, whereas I think women are a bit more like, and what are they going to think, and what's this going to be like? But I think that probably just brings a different like dynamic to the race. Not that one's right or one's wrong, but then yeah, it's just interesting to see the different sort of like vibes when it's like go time and race time.
Yeah, and I think there is, you know, that level of respect for, you know, what it takes to kind of get to that level and race in a major. Not that, you know, people that aren't at that level are not, you know, training and putting in that time and effort that we are at this level. But I think there is just that all round general respect that we know that, you know, everyone's committing and going all in at this level. And yeah, we just appreciate that everyone's kind of, you know, on the same page with that.
Men are like that with everything. Honestly, it could be flying kites, it could be anything. Like men are just so they are. I work in sales. I've had my whole career in sales, and it's always been that way. It's very the same. And I think specifically this major, there's some real new aggressive characters coming into the fold in the men's division. And I just so interested to see how that's going to play out, because even if we take a character like JK, nicest guy you could ever speak to, but when it comes to racing, he takes absolutely no shit from anyone, and he loves the mind games behind it. But then you've got a guy like Sean Noble who's coming into the space, and he is ex sort of army family, like very, very I'll win at all costs, not there to make friends, there to take over. And then you've got the established like Hunter who's coming back to prove a point. The real weird dichotomy coming into this race from the male's perspective. Very interested to see how it's all going to play out.
Yeah, you're so right. And I know typically, like, as soon as I cross the finish line at these majors, I'm like, all right, I can't wait to watch these guys go, because it's just, you never know, like, how it's going to go. It's always so entertaining to watch.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely makes it exciting.
We're going to come at you from a slightly different angle now. Okay, cool. So I read this amazing story about your father and this huge transformation he made in his life. And he lost pretty much a person in body weight. And then at the end of it all, he raced with you, and you guys crossed the line in what looked like a Tough Mudder, some sort of adventure race. Can you share a little bit more about your father? Because he seemed to be a guy that just provided for his family his whole life, let himself go a little bit. And then at one point he decided to make a huge change. So tell us a little bit about your father, and then how has that impacted you? Because that's huge.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't believe that you dug so deep to find that. That's so cool. Yeah. So my dad, he, first of all, he's like the hardest person, like working person that I know. He's always been like, yeah, like, you know, hard worker his whole life. but yeah, he was always like on the bigger side when I was a kid growing up. And it's not that he like was like snacking constantly. He would just have like these huge meals. Like he just worked really hard during the day, and then like he would sit down at dinner and just have like really big portions, and it just got out of control where he had gained a whole bunch of weight. But yeah, he finally decided that it was time to make a change, and he locked in. And before that, you know, he had gone on a lot of diets where he would like lock in and he would just drop weight really quickly, and then it would just be like, all right, good, I'm at my goal, let's just kind of go back to doing what I was doing before. And it was just this like up and down process. But he finally locked in, did the thing, kept it off, and he had said that when he did lose his weight, he wanted to do something like competitive with me. So yeah, we did sign up for, I think it was like a true grit, basically like a Tough Mudder, like a mud race. And we did one with my sister and her now husband. Yes, I mean, that was just so incredible to know that like my dad growing up was like, you know, a big man and wasn't able to do anything like that, and then to be out there with him, he was just having the time of his life, like just crushing the obstacles and rolling around in the mud. Like that was just a really special thing.
Yeah, but the real beauty of it is that he gave the whole front half of his life to providing for you guys and making you comfortable and so on and so forth. And as a result of that, he let himself go, because you can't win all the battles on all fronts. But then as you guys aged and family was probably more stable and comfortable, and you were going off to university and so on and so forth, he then worked in a different way to be able to provide for you guys long-term longevity, health, and share these experiences. I just think two-pronged. It's an amazing, moving story. And for anyone that doesn't know it, I said your dad lost almost a person in weight. It was 90 kilograms, wasn't it? It was a huge amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally lost like more than half of himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an incredible story. And thank you for sharing a little bit more on that. Yeah, we go deep. You don't want us as an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. We go deep.
Yeah. I know detectives over here. If I need you to find out information, I know who to come to.
Okay, Lillie, you're up.
We're going back to HYROX for a little bit. So you're just over that hour mark on your races. How important is it to you to break the 1 hour mark?
Ooh, I like this one. Obviously that is like kind of like the big standard right now for the time goal on the girl side. So of course that would be an incredible achievement. I would absolutely love to do that. But at the same time, right now, I'm mostly focused on being able to execute a race that I feel showcases my level of fitness that I feel that I have right now. And what I mean by that is I feel like previous races, I have not quite got my race plan together to that where I feel like it does showcase that. And I'm kind of just like still playing around to be able to unlock that. So right now my focus is to kind of put that race together, and I feel like I'm getting closer and closer each time I race. Hopefully Vegas is where I'll be able to do that. But I do believe that as I get closer to kind of figuring that out for myself as an athlete, that 1 hour mark is going to be coming closer and closer for me. So that is exciting.
Yeah, I think just tailing on to the end of that question, like if we think about your athletic bell performance, peak being the top of the bell, like do you think that you've hit your absolute pinnacle within sport as of yet? Do you think there's lots of room to grow and still within the sport of HYROX?
I do, yeah. So my background is not, you know, I ran 800 and the 400, a middle distance athlete. So like moving into what I guess we consider an endurance sport, I feel like there still is a lot of improvement that I can make. And, you know, with an endurance sport, the two things that kind of are guaranteed to improve are like consistency and just time. So for me, like in my mind, I know that if I can continue to put the time in, it's just really a matter of time until I can continue to see those improvements. So yeah, to answer your question, I believe that there is still a lot of space for me to improve.
Yeah, and I think rounding that off a little bit further, like I haven't really got a true understanding of Is this something that you do full time now? Like you're fully committed to being a HYROX Elite 15 athlete? Or is this something that you're kind of doing in conjunction with a career and also coaching and so on and so forth as well?
Yeah, so yeah, I have basically committed to being all in to be an Elite 15 HYROX athlete this year. But I still do train online. I have an online coaching business that I work with clients online. So that's still something that I do. But I have definitely had the privilege of being able to put in that time everyday training. So that's, yeah, been definitely a blessing to have.
I love it. Okay, so I know you're passionate about this one. I've read it a few times online. How can the average athlete tell an experienced trainer and coach from a snake oil salesman / woman? We're in 2025. There was snake oil saleswomen too.
Yeah. Oh yes, I know. Like with HYROX kicking off, that we are seeing, you know, a lot of, you know, people that kind of race one race and then they are, you know, putting out their 12-week HYROX training program, and you know, all the credit to them that they're trying to, you know, build up their platform and whatnot. I never want to bring anyone down from that. But yeah, it is hard because, you know, for myself particularly, I have, you know, a college degree in exercise physiology, and I've been coaching and programming for coming up on, you know, 8 years, I think it is, and it's been my life, right? But it is hard to kind of compete in this world when, you know, there is so much out there. But I think. I don't know. It's hard to say because I think, like, for me personally, like with my background and knowledge, like you can see a program that makes sense. You can see training that makes sense, like scientifically. And I can see that it would be hard for someone that doesn't necessarily have that background or that knowledge to know whether a program is like, you know, something good or something that's going to make them a better athlete.
Would you say don't take listen, this is just one, I'm just phrasing this. Would you say don't take advice from someone that hasn't walked a mile in those shoes, i.e. someone that hasn't been at the maybe upper echelons of the sport you're looking requirements for? Or would you say look at people's academic background, maybe do a little bit more research on their knowledge? Do you think it's as simple as that? Or is it a little bit more convoluted in how they would make those decisions? It's trial, error, feel, relationship. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I don't agree that you know, you can just you don't have to walk the walk. Definitely not. Like, you know, you can absolutely have the knowledge without, you know, being at the top. You don't have to be an elite athlete to be able to coach, to be able to program, and vice versa. Some elite athletes may not be the best coaches either. I totally agree with that too. I think it does come down to one, doing your research, like seeing how much your the person trying to program or coach you knows. But at the same time, I do really value a coach-athlete relationship, right? I think that you need to have that good relationship to basically go from being a good athlete to a great athlete. That's a really vital component, I believe. And I'm not saying that, you know, you can be best buds and you're going to become a world champ, but you still have to have like the knowledge on the coach's side. You still have to have the work ethic on the athlete side. But I do think that the coach-athlete relationship is a huge part of being able to become a great athlete, especially in this space. And that comes down to just having trust, right? Like I'm training with JK, and I have like 100% trust that what he programs for me is at my best, like he's, you know, obviously programming to make sure that I'm going to become a better athlete. And I totally believe that that's what he's doing.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. The fitness industry is very, very interesting in this aspect because it's like the best marketeers win in the fitness industry. The people that market themselves the best are the best coaches. And often the people that are maybe more science-based, a little bit more athlete-focused, they don't have that skill set necessarily as well. And they maybe don't make as much money, but they will provide you a better service. I studied nutrition university. So I done 3 years of like sports nutrition and performance, and then went on to do all my coaching badges. But now you can just do a 3-day online nutrition course and call yourself a nutritionist. And they're not the same thing. So I empathize with you on that. Yeah, I think everyone's just got to do your research, I suppose.
I think I probably have quite a view maybe on this as well, because I'm an online coach. I market through Instagram, so you could, and I don't compete at the highest level, and I don't have the capacity to either. I didn't go to uni, but I have all the qualifications. So from my side of things, I think there's levels to it. Like, no one's going to look to me to become an elite HYROXer, whereas that's exactly what they're going to look at you at for. And I think it depends like what the person's looking for, who they relate to, and how well that coach can then, like you said, like communicate with the client as well, because you can get all the qualifications under the sun, you can study for years and years, but if you can't actually talk to someone and understand how someone's actually feeling or what they're going through on that day, or like why that session hasn't gone so well, maybe it's nothing scientific at all, then I think it's just not going to work. You're never going to get anything out of that person. So it definitely depends on what the person's striving for. And if it is someone going for like an elite athlete status, then yeah, science definitely needs to be involved. You need to have all the qualifications, all the knowledge, all the sort of experience, but at the same time, so long as you can actually talk to that person and like have the relationship, like you said there, then without that, nothing good is really going to come from it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, cool. All right, another question. Question 6.
Yeah, so we mentioned earlier, you obviously have just moved 6 months ago, but you seemed like you did most of your training outside on the ranch with like quite minimal equipment. How important when you're performing at a high level do you think the facility is versus the mentality that you have?
Well, clearly I think that, yeah, like you don't have to have all the bells and whistles to become, you know, a great athlete or to compete at a high level, because I was training literally outside on a concrete pad, pulling out my equipment every single day for 2-3 years. We didn't have like a shed or anything at the property that we were living at in Virginia, so we actually had gutted our what was a dining room. We took the dining room out and we had stored like our ski erg, our assault runner, our assault bike, Concept 2 bike, all in the lounge, in the living room. Oh, dining room, my bad, sorry. Because we didn't have like the space for that. So we didn't really, I mean, we were living rural, we didn't have family around, so we went over to the house. So that was kind of like our setup. I think that if you have the work ethic, you have the discipline, you have the drive, you want to get it done, you'll make it happen. And you don't have to have, like I said, the best facility in the world to get there. So I am lucky, I will say right now, with being in New Jersey, because it is a whole lot colder in the winter right now than it was in Virginia. We have moved into a CrossFit box, so we do our training in there. We've been there for 2 months right now. So that has been actually, you know, spoiling myself here with having a, you know, train right there at your hand. So that's been really nice. But yeah, I think that if you're willing to do the work, I kind of like it a bit grungy, just outside in the heat. You just yourself, maybe my husband will be out there training, but nothing to distract you. You're just focused on the goal.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Wonderful. Do you want to take question 7 as well, Lily?
Yeah, sure. So you mentioned your husband a couple of times. He was sort of your main coach for a while. Is that correct?
Yes.
How did you like balance the coach athlete partner relationship? It's giving Tia Toomey, Shane Orr vibes.
Yeah, so when so I was a track athlete, as you guys probably know, and I've mentioned, but in college, like we didn't have like a strength and conditioning program or anything like that. So I didn't really like lift weights or anything through my college career, which, right, you think about that now is kind of a little crazy to think, but my husband, he has the same degree as me, exercise phys. But once I basically finished college, like he had helped me and like strength and conditioning. Like I kind of transitioned into lifting weights and also training like a little more CrossFit style. I was pretty kind of over running at that point, so that's kind of where I transitioned my training. And he absolutely was the one that kind of led that and helped me get strong. I have to give him all that credit. But no, we work really well together. He's my best friend. There has honestly, I can say that there's never been times that like we've had kind of that bicker or anything like that. Like I guess I have challenged him at times, like, you know, what am I doing this for, or you know, what's this about? But there's never been times that we've like butted heads over training, which is good. He always has my best intention at heart, and I always respected that. Even though he's my husband, I still like thought of it as, once again, that athlete coach relationship. So it's been good.
That's lovely. That's lovely. I can't imagine doing that in my relationship. I'm glad it worked out.
No, me neither.
I'm really happy it worked out for you. Here comes the crazy crew now, the twins and my wife. So yeah, the Mexican marching band's about to kick off in the background. Just give me one little second before I ask the next question.
Okay.
Okay, cool. We're all good. We're all good. For a second. Okay.
Sure.
It's their bath time. It's a very exciting time for them. Okay, cool. So question 8. This question has been framed in a way that I think will allow you to truly explain your race performance and how you feel about it. So how much correlation have you seen between how prepared you felt, how you felt physically on race week, and then the time achieved within HYROX? Has it been kind of a fair predictor in the build up to the race day, or race day times come out as a bit of a surprise for you? Maybe give or take 2 minutes this way or that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your thoughts on that? Are you seeing correlation in the run up and then performance, or yes or no?
No, I'm going to say. I think for me personally, like there's been races that I've, you know, had some great performances like time wise looking at it, and then, you know, not so great times. And it has been a little bit of a roller coaster for me, and a bit challenging mentally because, you know, as an athlete coming from a track background, like I've seen, well, one, I was always a very consistent athlete. So, and obviously racing track, the time differences that you would see in a race are very minimal from a good to a bad day. So you're not having these massive, you know, minutes and minutes difference in races. So that was something for me that I had to kind of accept, that lining up on the start line, you may not kind of come out with the time that you feel you deserve or that you can kind of achieve right now with your fitness. And I think part of it comes down to, one, you know, these courses, although we try to have a standard race, it is different. There's no like denying that. But also on my side too, I think it's just like I mentioned before, being able to execute a race plan that does unlock my my level of fitness that I feel I have. Like I feel like that's kind of been a bit challenging, but also kind of fun to play around with, because I think that, you know, strategy is so important in this race, and if you go too hard here or too, you know, you can kind of blow your plan up. So I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. Okay. Really, really interesting. And what was the frequency of your performances like within track? Would you perform 10 times a year? Was it 4? Like, how would you peak, and how does that correlate to the number of races you do in a HYROX season, for example?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like when I was back in Australia, you know, I would only race maybe 4 times a year, if that was if you kind of continued to progress through the stages. Like we had a district level, and then if you would progress to regional, states, and nationals. So like we did have big chunks of training where it was just preparing for that one big competition. And then obviously in college, like we were racing every single week. I ran cross country, indoor and outdoor track. So it was a full year season. So basically most weeks I would race. And that was something that I had to transition into, knowing that, hey, not every race is going to be a peak race. Whereas coming from back previously in Australia, like when I was racing in Australia, I was in peak position because we only had like these, 4 competitions a year if I got to that stage. So yeah, I think right now with being lucky enough to be in the Elite 15 and kind of having these races, it almost has been like my training back in Australia where you can kind of put that race on the calendar and have a good lead up into it to have a better performance or a peak performance, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, it definitely does. And as an athlete in the Elite 15, within HYROX, what are the perks of the gig? Do you guys get your flights paid to the majors if you qualify there? Is there any sort of support like to get to maybe even the 4 or 5 key races of the year? And then is there any support to go to the qualifiers for those? Like, how does that work as an athlete? Or do you just have to put yourself in as many positions to score as possible and finance that yourself?
Yeah, so I don't have any financial help, or HYROX does not help financially to get us to these races, which I'm hoping in the future that they will, pay for flights and accommodation for us to be at these races.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now that's kind of out of pocket, which it is extremely expensive to be able to compete in these races. So I have made a lot of sacrifices to be able to be, like most people, to be able to compete in the 15. But yeah, hopefully as time goes on, that will change, because I think that, the more and more time that us as athletes are putting in, we should hopefully be able to get help to be able to get to these races.
I think so. And I think with the amount of attention on the sport now, the money coming into the sport and all of those things, the sponsors coming into the sport, it's only going to facilitate that further for you guys to, I guess, be in good spirits coming to the race and not feeling the financial strain. I don't, you're definitely not the only one, and I know you know that, that's in the same spot that's going all in on right now. And you know what? There's a little beauty in that as well, that no one's in it for the riches right now. People are in it for love. And I think that's quite beautiful. Albeit you see my Instagram post, you know how I feel about how athletes should be paid in sport. But anyway, I look forward to seeing how that all works out in Las Vegas for you. Are you ready for the last question, Lillie?
Yeah, so we do a little bonus round on this podcast where we ask the previous guest to ask a question for the current guest. So last time we had Harry Thompson, who is a men's Elite 15 from the UK, and he wanted to ask you, how do you break up your week of running? And what he meant by that is, how much do you do on the treadmill? How much do you do outside? How do you do your, like, at the track? Do you do sprints, long runs, that type of thing?
Yeah, so I do 2 threshold running sessions a week. That is always on a treadmill. Right now it's on my assault runner. So I try and keep all my quality sessions on a treadmill so that I can just control as much of that as possible as far as pacing goes and like the elements and stuff like that. I do a strength running session. That's like a hill session. That is also on a treadmill. All my other sessions are easy runs, and I typically like to do those outside. However, right now with the weather being so cold, I have been doing a lot of those on my assault runner as well. And even when the weather is nice, I do try and still do a couple of those sessions on the assault runner, not outside all the time, just to minimize that impact on the joints and on the body, just to help with staying healthy and recovering better.
Yeah, JK's a big believer in sort of sub threshold efforts frequently, isn't he? Isn't that's a large part of his methodology, is train a little bit slower, below just below the lactate threshold, and do that more often to build up that base and efficiency. Is that sort of playing out in your coaching?
Yeah, so we definitely are working a lot in that threshold zone, which, you have that kind of range too. So I have done some what we call like higher threshold running sessions, which is more like of my LT2 lactate threshold, so that anaerobic threshold. So just working a little bit harder than my threshold pace, just to get kind of adapted to that lactic acid that you feel in the race. That's something that I've also been incorporating in a little bit as well.
Do you do all the ear pinching blood tests to find out what the threshold is and then operate above and below it?
Yeah, so I tried to do one of the tests with I was doing the finger pricking one. The results came out a little wonky, so I do have to actually go and retest that so I can try and get some more accurate results to help with finding that pace a little better.
Okay, cool. So the next question is a question for the next athlete from you to ensure continuity from pod to pod. So the next athlete, Lily, who do we have scheduled next? I think it might be the other Jess, or
It might be Jess Pettrow or Viola.
Okay.
So a question for Jess or Viola.
Okay. Let me think. Am I able to get back to you with a question?
It can be a broad question. It doesn't have to be specific to that person.
Let me think. I guess I'm also very interested in from my side, like I think like strength training is still very important in HYROX. And I find that I probably have more of a bias to probably doing more strength training versus some of the other athletes, from what I see anyway. So I'd kind of be curious to see how much strength training or how many days per week do these athletes hit their strength sessions, and what does that look like exactly? Yeah, so probably more on the strength side of things. I'm curious how that looks.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. I'm curious about that too.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people don't, they're just so into doing like these HYROX sessions and they're running, and I still think that having that strength base is very, very important. So I'm curious how other athletes feel about that.
Okay, very good one. And then the last question of the bonus round is for the I don't want to say average, it's not the right word, the median HYROX athlete, that's maybe doing somewhere from 90 minutes to maybe 2 hours. And if you were to give them one piece of advice and tell them to go away and work on it for 3 months, they'll save 10 minutes off their time. What would be the one piece of advice that you would give them?
Oh, I think obviously, I believe that your running efficiency and how well you can run in a HYROX is, particularly if you're running at that time frame, 2 hours to an hour and a half, is gonna really save you a lot of time. Particularly also in the rock zone as well. Like if you can get efficient in your running to where you're comfortable running in and out of the rock zone, I feel like you could probably save 10 minutes just there. Yeah, I have a
Yeah,
client, he's done one HYROX and I think he did an hour 58. He's been training with I've been coaching him, so he's going to be doing his second HYROX in Vegas, and his goal, I think he's looking to shave like 20 to 30 minutes off. So I'll get back to you on whether I might have the answer. Running efficiency might be
Proven.
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah, because I think what a lot of the athletes forget is that it's not an 8K race. It's a 8.8K race, isn't it? Including the time traveled within the rock zone. And they don't not 0.8K, or you use it as a rest stop, it still bleeds into the total time. A lot of people forget that. So they do at those levels,
Yeah, and also the fact, like I try and tell all my clients too, like, if you're not just gonna run 8.7K, like you're on your feet for 90 minutes to 2 hours. So it's like you need to get used to that in your training as well.
Yeah.
Duration.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, listen, that's great. And that's the first person that's actually said that is focus on your transitions. I came from doing 5 years of Ironman, and like, to be honest, most of it was just trying to smooth up your transitions when you got to a certain base level of fitness, just getting your socks on quicker, getting on your bike quicker, and getting back out there, getting your wetsuit off. It's very useful. So yeah, I really appreciate that answer. So with it being a major week this week, and we're asking an additional question, and you can answer it or not, but I think you will. Most people have had a crack at it. We're looking for race predictions for top 3 males, top 3 females. We're looking for some clickbait.
Yeah, okay. I am gonna go on the ladies' side. I gotta go with my girl Jo, Team Australia.
Love it.
Yeah. Jo for 1, Lauren Weeks in 2, And then third gets a little tricky.
You gonna pack your shit?
Hey, I truly believe if I can execute a race that you know, I could potentially be up there, but I'm gonna have to go with Lauren Griffiths. I'm gonna put her in third.
Lauren Griffith third.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
love
So
it.
we got Joe and the two Laurens. And then on the guy side, JK, he's gonna take the W.
Okay.
Second, I'm gonna give to Hunter.
Okay.
And third, I might go Tim Wenich for third.
Okay. Yeah. He said he's feeling pretty good. He was two episodes ago. He's going to be released on Monday, actually. But you'll
Okay.
appreciate that, I'm sure. Tim will as well. But actually, out of the predictions we've had 4 podcasts recorded in the last 3 days. On the female side, 100% of people have said either Lauren or Joe first and second. Like that seems to be what people are very, very confident in. On the male side, it's a complete mixed bag of predictions, because
I bet.
yeah, it could go anyway. And I think a large part of that is the male ego and how it performs on that day, because the ego sometimes can be a little bit beyond what your human performance can be.
Yeah.
Or it can be just enough to make you delusional enough to think you can win, and then you go on to
Yep.
win. So it's a big with the ego.
You never know, do you? And that's exciting.
I'm sure those girls have a bit of ego in them too, though, to compete at that level and do it so consistently. They have
Yeah,
to.
you have to, really. Yeah. I think we're just better at
Yeah.
like keeping it at bay versus the men.
Okay, cool. So listen, that's the core of the questions. This last little subsection is really about you. So if we give you a couple of minutes, like, how can people get in touch with you? How can people support you? And that's not just with your coaching business. Like, are you open to sponsors? Do you have any sponsors you want to announce that you're working with? It's a little bit of time for you to market yourself.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, Jess_Pettrow. And then as far as coaching, I have my coaching business. I have my link on my website. So my coaching business is Pettrow Performance Training. I have athletes on there that are just like strength and conditioning. I have a HYROX program, just a strict strength program, and a running program only. So I have a bunch of different people that I work with. In my previous coaching before HYROX, like I did a lot of training younger athletes. So kind of have a broad range of coaching in that sense. So yeah, my link is on my Instagram. I don't have any like big sponsors. I just got linked up with a supplement company, Simply Good Supplements. So they're providing supplements to me monthly. So that's definitely a big help. Appreciate that for sure. I have a code that you can use. It's Jess20, and that will save you 20% off. So that's also linked in my Instagram. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's cool. And open to sponsors, wide open to sponsors. If they were to come knocking, they see the episode, you'd appreciate the support.
Oh, please. That would be wonderful. It's, you know, as we mentioned before, it's a lot to get to these races and to perform at this level. So all the help is appreciated for sure.
That's wonderful. And how does the Puma sponsorship work? Because I know, like, when you race as an Elite 15 athlete, you're essentially a Puma athlete for that race. But how does that work, like, more year round? Because it seems like some people are supported year round, some people just get a little bit of clothing. Is that just throughout the Elite 15, or are you guys under some sort of wider sponsorship agreement with them?
Yeah, we don't have any like you know, kind of agreement or anything, like just because we are in the Elite 15. I personally have reached out to Puma because I've worn their shoes before I even became an Elite 15 athlete. But I didn't get any kind of response back. So I don't know whether it's something that you need to have like more of a following on social media, or whether you need to just be able to compete a little higher level in these races to get that notice. So hopefully as time goes on, maybe they'll broaden their their horizon to different athletes that aren't maybe just at the top, that they can kind of trickle down to help us other athletes out too.
Yeah, and I've been saying to a few athletes, because we've been approached by a couple of sponsors as I see our podcast starting to grow and so on and so forth. I've been saying to a few athletes, and then me just having my business hat on, I see certain brands trying to enter the sport. And for an athlete like you that loved the CrossFit, transitioned into HYROX, doing well at HYROX, LSKD are trying to enter this sport. I would reach out to them if I was you. If you go and listen to a episode with Greg.
It's tough, and I'm not a big presence on social media, which I probably need to get better at. But I'd rather just kind of, go into my little secret place and train and just like perform, show up to these races and race. But I know that if I do want to be able to continue in this space and to support myself to get to these races, I do need to put myself out there a little more.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm working on.
100%. Yeah. I guess how many performance years do you think you have left? Do you think you've got 5, 7 years? How long do you think you've got within the sport?
I mean, I would like to think at least 5+ more years. Like my body is feeling pretty strong and healthy still. I've been very lucky not to have any like major injuries through I've been competing since I was 5 years old, so I've never had any issues there. So blessed to have a healthy body. But no, I really do believe that I have like 5+ years left competing at a high level.
I love it. Listen, the best athletes sometimes are the worst marketeers of themselves. Just send the emails, reach out, tell them where you are, tell them where you're going to be, and get in their faces and get the cash, take the pressure off, enjoy the performance, because you're giving up 5 to 7 of your good years for this. You might as well be able to enjoy it and not just have to stress about making it from one race to the next, because it's hard. And I've spoken to a lot of athletes that are feeling the pinch. And there's money there. You just need to ask for it.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. I just got to get more confident in putting myself out there for sure.
Yeah, no worries at all. If we hear of anyone looking for new athletes in the sport, as I always say, we'll connect them with who we think suitable or put you directly in touch. So if anything pops up, we really, really appreciate your time. It's been an hour of your afternoon and Lily's late evening and my mid-evening. So thank you very much.
Here.
I really appreciate it.
It's great.
I appreciate you guys meeting with me. Yeah, you too, Lily, and thank you. And sorry if it's a late night for you guys.
No, it's all good. Worth it.
It's all good. Good luck in Vegas from me and my little twins.
Oh, thank you so much. Look forward to chatting with you later.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.